Does your head start to spin when trying to compare the various cruise lines and itineraries out there? Welcome to RTE Travel Talk, the show that talks to travel professionals around the world. Joining me today is Christy Fitzharris from Wheels Up Travel and Cruise. And today we're going to price compare Celebrity Cruises, Oceania, and Regent Seven Seas in Alaska, with a kind of surprising result. If you enjoy the journey with us today, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss an episode. And if this video's got you inspired, give it a thumbs up or drop a comment and join the conversation. It really helps the channel out. Thanks for being part of our travel community, whether you're a longtime fan or just dropping by. We really appreciate it. And now, on with the show. Hi, Christy. Welcome back to RTE Travel Talk.
Thank you, Ken. Good morning.
It's great to have you back with us. So, Christy,
I
I was thinking the other day, we get a lot of people on this channel that, for want of a better word, they send us comments and suggestions and they ask about. One thing I've noticed is to a person, especially when we're talking about some of the more expensive type cruise lines, like the premium, the luxury, and deluxe cruise lines, that people do a ton of research. And then in doing a ton of research, they wind up sometimes even more confused than when they started out in the first place. So I was kind of hoping today if you could take us through what you do with your clients, and we'll compare a couple of the, more popular cruise lines like Celebrity Cruises, Oceania, and then Regent. How does that sound?
That sounds great, Ken.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about your process, Christy?
Sure. So when a client comes to me saying that they want to go on a cruise, typically we have a kind of short intake form where I get some basic information about
Right.
what they'd like to do, when they want to go, where they want to go, and about how much they'd like to spend. Then we'll get on a call, and throughout that call, I'll learn more about their past cruises and the kind of things they like to experience on board. A lot of my clients have come to me with long histories with Royal Caribbean, Celebrity, Princess, those kinds of cruise lines, and they're ready to make a step up and move into maybe a more premium experience. A lot of them think that the suites sections of all of those cruise lines are the next natural step. But in my opinion, those don't always offer the best value or the best match for that particular cruiser. So I like to show them other options outside of what they've traditionally thought of as the next step for themselves.
No, exactly. And that's where I think people kind of get confused. So why don't we have a look at three particular cruise lines today that somebody may come to you with?
My typical client will come to me having experienced Celebrity, like I said, or Royal Caribbean or Princess, and they're ready to have a more luxurious experience. They're further along in life and they've got a little bit more money to spend.
Right.
And so many think that perhaps a sailing in the retreat section of a Celebrity ship is a great fit for them. And for some people, it absolutely is. The Edge class ships are a big step up from the previous class of ships on Celebrity, and the addition of the retreat across the fleet to the Celebrity ships has made a big improvement in the standard that a client can experience while you're on board a Celebrity ship. I also like to, in this category, show my clients anything else that is within a small window of what they have expressed to me as the amount they'd like to spend.
Right.
And so in this case, for a sailing this July to Alaska, I see that Oceania and Regent have similarly sized, not exactly identically sized cabins, but similarly sized cabins for about the same price. And so in this case, with my clients, I would be showing them a sailing on the Oceania Riviera and the Regent Explorer.
First of all, we should let people know that all of these cruise lines, each and every one of them, are just absolutely top notch. But I have to tell you, Christy, I'm kind of surprised that, when you break it down like this, there's not a lot of difference at the end of the day in price.
There's not up front. And
Right.
that's one of the things I also like to talk about with my clients. So in addition to there being differences between the number of people you're going to encounter on board, the level of inclusions or the level of services, there's a lot that goes into the ultimate true cost of cruising with each one of these cruise lines. And so as you can see here, Regent across the board, very inclusive. You can go on a Regent sailing, put away your wallet, and be perfectly happy for the entire time you're on board,
Right.
never needing to spend another dollar. Simply put, they make it very easy to cruise. The other two cruise lines are more of an a la carte experience. So you're going to pay for only what you want to pay for. With Celebrity, Wi-Fi and the beverage package are included in the retreat section, but you will still also need to pay for gratuities, shore excursions. Then also Similarly, on Oceania, that beverage package at $59 per person per day ultimately becomes $1,200 on an 8-night sailing, because the math brings it to about $1,000 for the package itself, and then they add a 20% gratuity on top.
Right.
For shore excursions, Alaskan shore excursions really do add up. So for an average, I chose 3 ports per sailing,
Right.
and gave an estimated cost of about $150 per port for my ultimate numbers that we'll see later on. Alaskan shore excursions do add up, and Regent includes all of those. So you can have unlimited shore excursions on Regent Seven Seas. There are some that you can pay an additional cost for, but those typically tend to be the very extravagant ones that involve perhaps a helicopter or a seaplane. So you can get a wide range of excursions included while you're on board Regent.
Yeah, so basically, Christy, when it comes to the inclusions, it looks to me like Regent is absolutely the most all-inclusive, followed by Oceania and then perhaps Celebrity. Would you think that Oceania and Celebrity are kind of on par?
I would say that Celebrity and the Retreat and Oceania are on par in terms of the experience, as long as you stay in the retreat. But another huge factor in determining the right cruise for you is not just what's included and the ultimate final price, but the personality of the ship. With the retreat on Celebrity, you can go into the retreat, have a more elevated experience, but then also go downstairs, enjoy the large production shows, a younger crowd in general. They have silent disco. They have all kinds of game shows. They have a lot of great fun things for families. Sometimes people in the Celebrity Retreat are maybe grandparents who want a more elevated or quiet experience, and then they come out of the retreat to the main section of the ship and hang out with their kids and grandkids.
So basically, for the benefit of our viewers and listeners, what the retreat actually is, it's kind of like a ship within ship concept. It's a separate part of the ship. The particular suites that are associated with it are all in one area, and they have like a separate deck, which is perhaps a little quieter than the main pool deck. And there's also their own specialty restaurant. So basically, it's almost like being on one of these smaller ships, like an Oceania or Regent, but you have all the benefits and the bells and whistles of the larger ship, right?
Exactly. It's the best of both worlds if that's what you're looking for sure.
Exactly, yeah.
A few more things that Regent will include that the other cruise lines will add in on an a la carte basis if you're interested in purchasing those. Laundry on Celebrity, you'll pay per piece. Oceania and Regent have that included for you. Specialty dining on Celebrity does cost per person per night between $60 and $150 per person, while Oceania is going to include all of that, and so is Regent. There's a limited mini bar in your retreat cabin. Oceania will provide soft drinks for you. Regent has a rather extensive menu of what can be personalized and loaded into your minibar. And then Regent's going to include spa access. Oceania will include it for concierge and higher cabins, which in this case, in my example, the client is in a concierge cabin. And then on Celebrity, if you'd like to enjoy the spa, it'll be $300 per person for a week's pass.
My question about the spa would be, for $300 per person, does that mean I can go in and I can get massages and make use of that? Or what is that?
I wish that was it. That does actually sound like a great deal, but the spa access for all 3 of these cruise lines is limited to the sauna, the steam room, those wonderful warm loungers that are usually configured to face outside the beautiful view, so you can be relaxing in a spa lounger while you're taking in the sights of the inside passage in this particular example, but it does not include any treatments.
Right on. Okay. One can always hope. So here's our final numbers, Christy. What can you tell me about that?
So this is something that I like to make sure all of my clients are aware of, is that while the upfront price on Celebrity and Oceania was in the same range as Regent, within a couple $100 of the $10,000 that you see here for the Regent price, all of the additions that are included on Regent but not included on Celebrity and Oceania can quickly make your cruise cost a little bit more than you were anticipating to pay. So as you can see, total cost on Celebrity over 12, Oceania almost 13, and on Regent still at $10,338. And there's an asterisk there that's to note that that rate also includes your transfer from Whittier, where the cruise ends, back to the airport. So they're taking you back to the airport after the cruise to catch your flight departing Alaska, because it is a one-way sailing in this case. And as you can see, we've got the cost per person broken down. Again, Regent coming out ahead, surprisingly. The cost per person per night, again, with Regent coming out ahead. The asterisk there by the Oceania sailing is that that's an 8-night cruise, where the other two are 7-night cruises. And so I did factor that in, of course, dividing totals by 8. And then this was an interesting metric my husband wanted me to point out, because he was just stuck on the fact that the Celebrity cabin was significantly larger than the others at 400 square feet, where the others were the next closest in size was 341. And so I thought, I'll just divide the total cost by the square footage of the cabin, and still Regent is coming out ahead at $30.32. So if you're a real estate agent and that's the way you like to think about your numbers, there is the metric for you. And then something else to be very aware of is when you're choosing a cruise line is the total experience is completely impacted by how crowded you're going to feel on the ship and how personalized the service is going to be. And that really is evident in the crew to guest ratio. On Celebrity, there are 2.2 passengers for every crew member. On Oceania, 1.5 guests will be served by one crew member. And then on Regent, there's one crew member for every 1.38 guests. And then similarly, the crew or the guest to space ratio goes up as we step up slightly from, the large ship to the medium and to Regent, which is the luxury small ship line.
For the benefit of our viewers and listeners, why is the guest to space ratio important?
It's important to be sure that, when you go to the pool deck, there's going to be a lounger for you. In general, there's just going to be more space around you. You're not going to feel crowded at any time. You're unlikely to stand in any lines.
Basically, it's more room in the public areas.
Exactly.
But again, Christy, when we speak about crew to guest ratio, that really goes to the experience that you're going to have with the crew, because better the crew to guest ratio, the more time people get to spend with the crew and the more special moments that can come up along the cruise. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. With fewer guests for each crew member to take care of, they're going to have more time to interact with you, create special moments for you, or provide that intuitive service that can only happen when there are enough crew members to really remember perhaps your preferences or that you're celebrating something special during that sailing.
So when I'm looking at that cost per square foot of cabin, and we look at Oceania is higher than the rest of them. And that effectively means that their cabins are somewhat smaller. Even the cabins on an Oceania cruise are a good size. I always tell people, you don't really spend a lot of time in your cabin anyway.
That's correct. But it is worth pointing out that in general, cabins on Oceania are a little bit smaller than they are on Regent. But that's because Oceania provides every range of cabin. They do have interior cabins. They have ocean view cabins. They have balcony cabins. This particular one that we're looking at is about in the upper 1/3 of all cabin types available on Oceania.
Right.
Same with Celebrity. These are in the top 1/3 of all cabin categories available. The category that we're showing here on Regent is the second lowest type of cabin category. So for a couple $100 more, you can actually move up fairly quickly into very large suites on Regent Seven Seas.
That's a really aggressive price all in on Regent. Christy, is that something that you would find every day, or is that an exclusive product that you came across when you were doing your research for this particular client?
So it is an exclusive fare. If you look up the cost of this cruise online, the published rate is $14,000, just over $14,000 for this particular cabin. I'm fortunate enough to be associated with a host agency that has a wonderful relationship with Regent Seven Seas. And from time to time, we get a list of private or exclusive rates that are available to our clients and can really save our clients a significant amount of money, as you can see here.
Exactly. So that goes to the value of having an expert travel advisor in your corner, because sometimes there's actually rates out there that are significantly better than a published rate that can be found on the internet. So you can do all the research you want, and there's still rates out there that are even better sometimes.
Exactly. Not only do we have access potentially to exclusive or private fares for many cruise lines, not just Regent Seven Seas, but you're not going to get this kind of analysis really on your own unless you're kind of one of those spreadsheet people anyways. And this is and I am one of those people. This one of my favorite things to do actually is to kind of delight people by showing them, hey, Regent is within your reach. Do you want to try it? This is what the experience is going to be like on board. And if it's a fit, then step up.
But again, I'm sure you would agree with me. Over and above the price, it still has to be a good fit for the client. They have to
100%.
want that kind of experience.
And a big factor that goes into that often is Well, two things: the entertainment or the complete vibe on board the ship, but then also children. Are children allowed? Are there kids programs which would draw more children to each of these cruise lines? That's something we should definitely talk about. So Celebrity does have an excellent kids club. My daughter loves it. She actually likes it better than the Disney Kids Club because Celebrity will do more maybe scientific or educational based kids programming. And I thought that was amazing. Oceania does have a kids program for kids ages 5 to 12 on their Alaska sailings. Similarly, Regent has a select summer and holiday sailings kids program for ages 5 through 17.
Right.
But in general, the rest of the year, if you're sailing during the off season or outside of school holidays, you're likely not going to encounter children on Oceania or Regent, which is not the case with Celebrity.
Exactly, because that's not really the market they're catering to. Celebrity's got the advantage there because their ships at the end of the day are larger, and so they can devote more space and crew resources to entertaining kids as need be.
Exactly.
So this particular cruise comparison that we've done here today, Christy, is Alaska in July of 2025. Do they go to the same places pretty much, or how does that work?
So largely they'll go to the same places: Ketchikan, Juneau, Skagway, those kinds of ports. Oceania may stop at a more unique port on some of their sailings, and Regent will do the same. So on the Regent sailing, you see Klawak and Whittier. That's the benefit of sailing on one of these smaller ship cruise lines. As you come down in ship size, you'll have the ability to get into those smaller or more remote ports.
That makes a lot of sense. Christy, this is a really great comparison between Celebrity, Oceania, and Regent. For someone that's new to cruising, which line would you recommend starting out with? Or is there a particular line?
So that's a conversation I have with each of my clients based on all of these factors and also the type of experience they'd like to have on board. What are they looking to do while they're on board? What level of service are they looking to experience while they're sailing? That is something that we talk through with our clients and determine on a case-by-case basis.
Christy, when we're looking at these three lines, one of the things that we hear all the time is people may want to shy away from like an Oceania or a Regent because they think they're stuffy. For example, do I have to wear pants in the bloody dining room or things like that? What's your thoughts on that? Or do you get questions like that?
I get that question more often than you would expect from men. A lot of men, when they go on their vacation, they want to just hang loose. They want to wear shorts. They want to wear, their comfortable shoes, and they want to relax. Hands down, in this situation, between these three lines, Celebrity is the place to do that. You will have to wear pants on Regent and Oceania in the dining room. Celebrity has some dining rooms that do require slightly more elevated level of dress. For the most part, during the day on all of these cruise lines, you can dress how you wish. None of them have formal nights that are required. Celebrity will have an evening chic night that's completely optional, and people go all out or they dress up just a little bit. With Oceania, they don't have any required formal nights, but on longer cruises, 16 nights or greater, they will have a couple. And then similarly with Regent, they have some nights where elevated dress is encouraged, but none of it's required.
Right on, right on. It's really about your vacation and enjoying it. With Celebrity, the vast amount of restaurant choices on board their ships, you're always going to find someplace where you're going to feel comfortable.
Exactly.
Well, Christy, this is fantastic. Is there anything else you might like to add before we sail on out of here today?
So the last thing I'd like to add is that if you're not currently working with a travel advisor, I highly recommend it. No matter what your budget is for the kind of cruise that you're looking to experience, there are multiple options that will fit within that price range. And it's always a great idea to get this kind of analysis and opinions of the advisors who have sailed on all of these lines to give you that firsthand feedback and education and access to special fares that they may have. It is always an advantage to analyze your next cruise selection with a travel advisor.
And saves you a lot of research and time, a lot of work. I'd much rather let somebody else do it and make the recommendation to me.
Absolutely.
Well, Christy, this is great. If folks wanted to reach out to you about a possible cruise on one of these three great cruise lines, how would they do that?
The best thing to do is to use the link in the show notes to schedule a time to talk. That's going to ensure that I have a dedicated 30 or so minutes to go over exactly what your preferences are going to be. But you can always call 830-310-0244 or send us an email.
Sounds great. I'll leave that contact information in the description for those folks that might like to reach out. But as always, since I like to live vicariously through the wonderful people I meet on this channel, I have to know where you're off to next.
Next up, in about 2 weeks, I'm departing for a tulip time river cruise sailing with AMA Waterways. I'm hosting a small group. My mother's going to be joining us, and I cannot wait to return to Amsterdam, Keukenhof, and all those great sites.
Ah, sounds like a plan to me. We'll have to have you
Mhm.
back to regale us with your adventures in Amsterdam. How does that sound?
Thank you again.
Perfect. Well, with that, Christy, I'm going to just wish you safe and happy travels on all your future cruises and destinations. May the wind always be at your back, and perhaps you and I will meet up someday on the Lido deck of a Regent Seven Seas ship.
Beautiful. Same to
Take,
you, Ken. Thank you.
take care.
Bye bye.
And that about wraps it up for today, folks. A very special thanks to my guest, Christy Fitzharris of Wheels Up Travel and Cruise. If you'd like to reach out to Christy about a possible cruise vacation, I will leave her contact information in the description. If you'd like to reach us, you can simply send a question to questions@realtravelexperts.com, visit our website, realtravelexperts.com, or simply leave a comment. We always respond. And as always, folks, if you enjoy this content, a like, subscribe, share, and a ring of the bell is certainly appreciated and helps other folks just like you to find our content. So until next time, happy travels.